Are you feeling stressed out and struggling to build the key relationships that you know you need to build at work to get ahead? Do you often have too much work to do? Or maybe you're working for more than one manager and feel like you're getting pulled in multiple different directions all at once, and that's aggravating your stress level and you feel like you're moving towards burnout. Or maybe you've been passed over for a promotion or failed to get a raise you really wanted. But at the same time, you still don't have clear expectations as to what success looks like in your role or what it might take to get to that next level. Hi, I'm Stephanie Slocum, founder of Engineers Rising LLC, and every day I help technical professionals overcome these types of issues. And one thing I have noticed is that there are things that can hold us back, and often the work habits we have, and there are specifically 3 that a lot of people struggle with, are surprisingly common and add stress and can even sabotage our ability to advance in our STEM careers. Conquer these, and you'll not only be less stressed and happier at work, but you'll also be on a leadership track. So, are you ready to hear the 3 bad habits that could be holding you back? Let's go. Number 1, defaulting to email, chat, and text in your communications. Email, chat, and text are all convenient, but they're also easy to misinterpret. For example, I once received a text from my boss, who was out of the office, that said, "Can you help me with this dying?" I had a coworker read the text a couple of times to make sure I wasn't seeing things, and it sparked an entire office conversation about if the boss was actually dying. It turns out that autocorrect was the culprit, and it had changed the word deadline to the word dying. But to this day, I often wonder how much time was wasted as we had a discussion about how to interpret that particular text. It's estimated that email is only 7% as effective as talking. That's because the vast majority of our communication occurs through nonverbal cues like tone of voice and body language. And that just doesn't translate well to email. So for an analogy here, imagine that you were designing something and you were only given 7% of the information you actually needed to design it. Would you just start designing? Of course not. You go get more information. Yet that is exactly what we do when we rely on email and default to email and text and the written word only in our communications. The better plan is to mindfully choose your communication based on what is most appropriate for your situation. Now, I wrote a very detailed blog about this on my website, engineersrising.com, and I will drop that link into the description below this video so you can read it in detail if you would like. But I wanted to give you a quick summary here. To summarize, verbal in person followed by video conference with cameras on are the best options to get a richness of both verbal and nonverbal communication. This allows you to use your emotional intelligence skills, which is an essential leadership trait, to ask questions based on both what people are saying and what they're not saying and that you're interpreting through body language and tone of voice. Phone calls are next because then you can hear the tone of voice. Then we have emails, and finally text. Now, for emails, it's best that they are kept short and with one goal in mind: to summarize a conversation, to get a quick answer, to send out that doodle poll to figure out when your next meeting should be. If you start writing your email and you realize that someone needs a ton of information to make a decision that you need to be able to move forward with your design work, then talk to them first and summarize it in an email. The rule of thumb that I use is that if it's going to take, or it ends up taking, more than 3 emails of back and forth to resolve a situation or come to a solution that you can move forward with, it's time to elevate your communication level to either a phone call or video or in person. You may be wondering, why is texting last on the list even below email? Besides the same troubles that we encounter with email, in that, for example, A email can be interpreted as concise and to the point, and that exact same email could be interpreted as a thinly veiled criticism of why something's not done yet, if your example is a status update. With text, that has the additional complication that often the only quote-unquote record of the text, and I will include chat in this as well, is through the two specific devices between yourself and the person you're talking to. My background, I'm coming from the engineering industries that are most litigated, most sued out of all the different types of engineers. And depending on your state, depending on the laws where you live, a text may not be admissible in court if something were to happen. So keep that in mind as you're communicating for text. I completely get it is convenient. We have our phones everywhere, and it is tempting to send that text back and forth. Just know that should something go wrong, first of all, it will be hard to pull that up as a piece of documentation. But more importantly, it is really, really easy to misinterpret tone, what someone meant, as I shared earlier with my example with my own boss. The biggest dangers in communication, and specifically email and text, occur when you're in a conflict or potential conflict situation where the urge will be strong, particularly for those who are conflict avoiders, to send an email instead of having a direct conversation. Avoid that urge unless you don't care about the outcome of the conflict. Sending that email instead of having a discussion means that it's substantially less likely you'll get the outcome you want. Remember, email is only 7% as effective as talking. So what specifically are some situations where in-person and video chat creates much better outcomes? Some examples include negotiations of any type, be it your workload or for a raise. Topics that will trigger high emotions for you, your discussion partner, or your team if it's a group discussion. Examples of those topics could include unhappiness with how you are being treated or disrespected during a team meeting. Giving feedback. Communications between two people with a history of personality clashes between them. Any conversation where the topic is potentially triggering or sensitive. Delivering bad news, which includes firing someone. In short, your default should be in person or a video conference call when you're dealing with a topic that may be conflicting, triggering, or the title of your email could have otherwise been, "It's complicated." The second bad work habit that is stressing you out and sabotaging your career is settling for unclear expectations. So let's do a quick assessment here to determine if you might be dealing with unclear expectations at work right now. Answer these questions. Do you feel obligated to respond to email as soon as you receive it? Do you know what you need to do to get a promotion or a raise? Are you getting explicit feedback on your work performance, both what you do well and where you need to improve? When someone sends you a request, do you ask, when do you need this by, if they are not explicit in that request? If you answered no to any of these questions, you are settling for unclear expectations. Without clear expectations, it's hard to know what success in your role actually looks like. And when you don't know what it looks like, that makes it easy to get in a loop of being busy, exhausted, stressed out, working overtime, and doing lots of extra work because you aren't sure what actually matters to your company in your role. The solution for this is to ask for those expectations. And if you encounter a reluctance to clearly define them, make your best educated guess on what they might be and present them to your manager for confirmation. Here are 3 examples. Example 1. You receive an email from a coworker with an urgent request but no deadline. Here's an example of a response you could give. I received your request and am currently working on a high priority task for my manager. When do you need this by? Also, should we have a discussion with my manager about reprioritizing other things that I am working on? Example 2. Your manager is overloading you with project requests And it should be noted that these project requests, they're much more than a 5-minute task. Here's a sample script you could use in reply. As this will take this amount of time for me to complete, I will add this to my to-do list. I am currently working on, share that task you're working on. Can you let me know when you need this new information? I was planning to finish this and then work on, share the list of things you were going to work on next. Then say, please let me know how this new request should be prioritized within my other work. Example 3. You're working constantly, but you're not sure exactly what success looks like in your role or what you need to do to get to the next level. Here is an example of how you could start that conversation with your manager. The third common habit of STEM professionals that is causing you stress and sabotaging your career is not setting boundaries. So first, what are boundaries? Boundaries are simply your list of what is okay and what is not. And those boundaries have been pushed on during the pandemic in unprecedented ways. It can feel like there's an expectation to be available 24/7 at work because we're always connected. Well, at the same time, you feel unappreciated, stressed, and disconnected from your coworkers. This is a struggle for virtually all women. Part of it is that we really are asked at work to do more, and specifically the type of work that is called non-promotable, in that doing that work, so for example, taking notes, is not going to get us to the next level in our careers. What happens when we don't set boundaries is that we say yes to everything because we think we must, and that takes a huge toll on you because the reality is that there is always going to be more work. There's always going to be more things that you could do than there are hours in the day. That is a direct path to burnout, which was a problem before the pandemic. There is one study, for example, from 2018 that found a range of 57% to 70% of tech workers specifically were identifying as struggling with burnout. Fast forward to 2021, and we've got 76% reporting being burnt out. Life and work boundaries have blurred, but that's not the only contributor to burnout. This study found that the average working hours in the United States actually increased by 3 hours per day when we compared pre-lockdown to January 2021. If you want to learn more about how do you set boundaries, I invite you to check out my 2020 blog that I'll drop in the description below this video, and you can read both the research behind why women get asked more and access some scripts that you can use to push back with grace at work. To recap, here are the 3 bad work habits that cause stress and sabotage your STEM career. Number 1, defaulting to email, text, and chat in your communications. Number 2, settling for unclear expectations. Number 3, not setting boundaries. Before you go, let me know, which ones of these 3 bad habits have you observed or done yourself at work? And if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more practical tools, tips, and strategies to find your voice, engineer a career on your terms, and make your mark on the world, make sure to subscribe to this channel.